Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today we are thinking about synchronicity. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a topic on our minds. And I have my special guest here, Sophia, who's going to help us really think about this in another manner. So, with that being said, thank you so much, Sophia, for coming onto my show, sharing your time and your perspective with me. Let's go ahead and just dive right in. When you hear the word synchronicity, what does that make you think about?
Well, it's a Greek word, and Greek is my first language. So sin is with, and chronos is time. So it's kind of at the same time, something happening at the same time. But what struck me enough to write about it
Yeah.
was that I began experiencing miracles when I was 19 years old.
Okay.
And I had no desire to write a book, but they just kept happening. And so, first off, I would like to make the distinction between a coincidence
Yeah.
and
Please.
a meaningful coincidence or a synchronicity. So, for example, okay, so the other day I'm typing, I'm writing, and I typed the word trajectory. And at that very same second, somebody on TV said trajectory. So, I mean, that's not I mean, I use the word, but it's not like at the tip of my tongue. But it was like, wow, that's a coincidence. But so what? Right? So what?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but I'm going to give you uh, um, an example of a meaningful coincidence that actually brought about a miracle. And the way I define miracle is getting exactly what you need at the right time. Okay, so two things happened just before our wedding
Okay.
that that was, I mean, the coincidences were just beyond belief, and they resulted in a miracle or something that I needed at the time. So we had decided to get married on 4th of July, and the wedding was 4th of October. So it was like 3 months, and all the venues were taken. You know, so I get a phone call from a woman who found my library card. And I know, but it was my driver's license. I'm sorry, it was my
Okay.
driver's license. And she said, "How can I give it to you?" And I said, "We found out that she only lived two blocks from my house." And
Okay.
so I said, "Oh, just put it through the mail slot." Okay, and she put this nice little note about Oregon because she and her boyfriend love Oregon, and it was an Oregon driver's license. Okay, so 2 months later, I get a call from this woman, and now the wedding is approaching, right? And so she says, "You're going to find this a little strange, but I just found your ATM card." I mean, first of all, I don't lose cards, okay? But
Yeah.
I had gone to this ATM machine that the one that I normally would go to, it uh, it reads your card and then it spits it right out. But
Uh-huh.
this one keeps it until after the transaction, and then, "Would you like another transaction?" And you say no. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say no because I thought I already had the card, I guess. So the next person could completely wipe out my bank account.
Yeah.
So so she said, "Would you?" I couldn't believe it, and so she was the next person at that ATM machine, right? So she says, "Should I put it through your mail slot?" And I said, "No, we've got to meet." Okay. So she comes over to my studio. This lovely young woman who's a concert violinist.
Oh,
And as a result of that meeting, she got her friend who played the classical guitar, and they played my favorite concierto, Concierto de Aranjuez, as I walked down the aisle. Okay, that's a meaningful coincidence, okay, that she would find both cards. The other one, it was simply I dialed the wrong number by one digit and got this guy that I knew socially.
Mm.
And as a result of that, and he couldn't be on the phone. And I said, because I was calling my friend Ann, and he says, "It's Jerry. You called me. I have to run. I'm late for a meeting." And I'm like, I said, "You have to call me back." I said, "This is wild. This was the wrong number, but you have to call me back, Jerry." So he did. And as a result of that, he, at the time, very, very small window, like a few years, he owned this old world, beautiful hotel here in Philadelphia, the Barclay.
Okay.
And as a result of him calling me back and talking and telling him that I was getting married, he gave us the ballroom of the Barclay for free and kicked in the presidential suite for 2 nights. Okay. Oh, but I had to invite him and his girlfriend to the wedding, which was fine. So those are meaningful coincidences. But here is what I want your listeners to take away, okay?
Hmm.
I could have, in both instances, dismissed it. So when the woman called with the ATM, I could have said, no, yeah, just put it, oh my God, it's so wild, but just put it through the mail slot. And with Jerry, when he said, I'm going to call you back, I made him promise. I said, you promise me. So that is taking action on the coincidence. And once I realized that, I did not want to write a book, but I'm like, I listed all my miracles and all of the coincidences, and every miracle was preempted by a coincidence that I took action. And that is what I wanted to share. So my first book is The Divine Language of Coincidence, How Miracles Transformed My Life After I Began Paying Attention.
Well, right after you started paying attention, because I'm like, you know what? Right now I'm thinking about it. I never really paid attention to it the way that you stated it, but it makes sense because we dismiss a lot of the coincidence or the signs or however people want to call it. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
when you lean into those coincidences and you lean in and you just see where it takes you. It is. It does become a miracle. So I see what you're saying, how there's a difference when it comes to synchronicity because it becomes meaningful because there's something within you that says, no, there's more than this. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
you don't just let it just linger in your mind like, oh, it's just more than this. No, you take action, like you said. You know what I mean? You do something about it. And I think once people realize, like, if you start doing something about it, you create you create so much different opportunities in your life. Like you said, you could ended up making a friend. You ended up reconnecting with a friend. You got a venue and a violinist and just music. Just oh my goodness, such a memory that till this day that you can hold so much value with. You
Well,
know, so go ahead.
and well, a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people who have a coincidence story, a miracle story, but there's so many that happened here. In fact, there were so many that I actually plucked out all the ones that had to do with death, including after death communication signs. So that book, the name of that book is Consciousness Beyond Death: True Stories of Signs, Messages, and Timing. And so if you said that you use the word that we create these things, but here's my philosophy. My philosophy is that there's something bigger than us, a divine intelligence that communicates with us. This intelligence wants us to be happy and find our true purpose.
Yeah.
And so it communicates via dreams, a
Mhm.
stranger that just says exactly what you needed to hear,
Yeah.
or the coincidences. And then we communicate back by asking for what we want and then saying thank you, which is very important. But in this way, we are not just creators, we are co-creators with
Yeah.
divine intelligence.
Exactly. You have a different type of connection, a different type of relationship, and people don't realize that. So I thank you for bringing that up. You know what I mean? Because I don't think that's something that we should dismiss or not acknowledge in this situation. Because when you have that type of connection, then you start to see things differently. You know what I mean? And you have that type of gratitude. And oh my goodness, gratitude does so much for people that they don't realize what they're missing out until you actually start saying things out loud that you're grateful for, and it starts having a ripple effect in your life and then on others' lives. So I think that's a really great point, to bring that up as well, because people don't really think about that. Like that gratitude portion, you can't forget that. You can't just acknowledge a situation or acknowledge a sign or acknowledge a coincidence and then not provide some type of gratitude along with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're leaving me off a cliff. That's how I see it.
Well, I say thank you all day long, and the more you say thank you, the more you get. And also, I'd like to point out that kind of unfortunately, God gave us free will. Okay, and so we think we know what's best for us, but I'm here to tell you that when you get to this point of faith, you know, and I see like three phases of spiritual growth. Okay, I from the first one, I think a lot of people are here where they see things from the position of wishful thinking. So it's like, I wish for this. The coincidence comes. Oh wow, what a coincidence! Don't take action. Keep
Mhm.
wishing for it. Another coincidence. Don't take action. Then you get to the point where you go, wait a second. That if that didn't happen, like if I hadn't gone accidentally the wrong street, I would not have met my partner. You start like, and you ask, and then you receive, and you hope you'll get what you want. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's from the position of hope. But when you get to the level of faith, like real faith, you don't worry about anything, because what you think is an obstacle could be, your savior. Okay. So I am a perfect example of this. I had made my decisions. I did not want to get married. I did not want children. And I did not want a book. I mean, I had a medium. Actually, she was world famous, who told me I was going to write a book. And I said to her, I'm sorry, that's not in the cards. And I thought, like, just because she's world famous doesn't mean she gets it right all the time. And she let me argue. I said, I'm a people person. I'm not going to sequester myself and write a book. I can tell you that right now. And she said, word for word, she said, Spirit says, when she's ready, there are many spirits here to help her and many hands on earth. And and so I was successfully single until I was 45. I one of my mentors, Father Stephen, I would have coffee with him every other month for 8 years until he retired and moved to Florida. And he's the closest thing to Jesus. Okay, he not only is an Orthodox priest, but he opened up all the covenant houses around here, which is shelters for homeless youth.
Okay.
And he was coming over for coffee, and he said, you know that Turkish girl I told you about that landed in the shelter in Atlantic City? And I said, yes. And he says, well, I'm going to go take her to get her cap and gown. She was graduating from high school, and she was at the shelter. And can I bring her over for coffee? So he brings her over for coffee, and I thought, wow, it's a beautiful girl. I thought, what is she doing in a shelter? Judging.
Yeah.
And so, I asked her, how did you get to the United States? And she answers. And then I asked a follow up question. And I'm like, wait, what? And Father Stephen says, oh, I have an errand to run. I'll see you back here in an hour and 15 minutes. And he knew exactly what he was doing. And what I heard was, I mean, abuse on every level and re-abuse, abandonment, re-abandonment. So, anyways, long story short, we adopted her. She
Mm.
was 18, and she had just turned 19 that week, and she she got three masters, and she's married to this Greek architect in Greece, and she's coming to visit. And Mother's Day is my new favorite holiday. So there you go. And then I decided when I made my discovery that I'm not special. I really am not. I'm not a guru or a saint, and these things can happen to everyone. It's available for everyone, and I wanted to share it through my books. And the second book, Consciousness Beyond Death, just came out in audio. But and that is here's the exciting part. Here's the exciting part. Both books, okay, both books have gotten the attention of scientists.
That's good. That's
Yes,
very good.
yes. In fact, I mean, I knew that scientists studied consciousness, but I had no idea that they also studied coincidence. I mean, I had no
Oh
idea.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so they were really interested in my first book, but not in the second one. Okay. And so much so that there's this outfit in the UK. It's called the Scientific and Medical Network, and it's a group of very esteemed scientists that study paranormal. And they
Hmm.
invited me to join their group. I am the only non-scientist, non-academic. And then, just before publication of the second book, I mean, they all are interested in NDEs, right? Near death experiences, but not science and, communication, I mean, if
Yeah.
you almost die and come back, you can tell your story. But then if you know, you die, well, they're dead, and so that's not
I
supposed to
mean, they
happen.
still have a story. Yeah, they still have a story, though. You know what I mean? Everyone has a story.
Oh,
Every spirit has a story, and if you allow yourself to listen, they'll tell you the story some way, somehow. And that's the reason
oh,
why I like the reason why you said earlier how it comes through dreams, it comes through visions, it comes through so many directions, this communication. And people don't realize like the spirit world can come through those directions as well. It's an open avenue, and people forget that. So I love the fact that scientists are in your zone of interest because let's be honest, this is a zone of interest of mine as well. So that's the reason why I wanted to have you onto my show because I'm curious to just to hear your perspective and pick your mind and see how you think because people don't think about what you're saying and how there's a coincidence and how there's a way to connect and how all these things and you don't have to be a scientist to understand this. You know what I mean? Like you just have to be curious and just lean into it just a little bit and to allow yourself to think about the what ifs and the possibilities. And once you allow yourself to just experience it for what it is and not for what you want it to be or what you project it out to be and be disappointed. It's like experience it for what it is. And then you realize like, wow, it's amazing. And you can put yourself in any situation, not just like in a spiritual one, not in a paranormal one. Like people just forget that connection in general. You know what I mean? They just lose it. You know what I mean? So just reminding them that synchronicities is real and having your book available. You kept on saying how, you didn't want to write a book, you didn't want to write a book, and then this medium came and
two, and
talked
I
to
wrote two books.
yeah, and you wrote two books, you know what I mean? So it's like, and the medium came and was like, you know what? It's just until you are ready. And we forget that, you know what I mean? We will push away so much of what we don't want to do at the moment. But in reality, it's like, it's eventually going to happen. But you can reject the now. Go ahead and reject the now. Call me out all you want. But and at the end of the day, when you walk your path, you'll find it on your own. You know what I mean? And people don't
Okay,
realize that.
but here is the uh, icing on the cake. So just before publication of my book, okay, again, scientists study NDEs, okay? Just before a new scientific field emerged, ADC, after death communication, and now they're all interested in my book.
Oh,
Yes,
look at that.
yeah, can I give you two examples of this after death communication that happened after the book was published because they're not in the book?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is a unsolicited, spontaneous communication. Okay, so I was at the eye doctor and I told her about my second book.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, well, I have a story for you. I'm like, okay. And this is what I'm saying. If people start thinking how things happened in their lives, they're going to see what coincidences happened, Okay. And again, I can't tell you how many times this has happened where I say this happened and they go, well, oh, this happened to me. So she said that she had to go to a gala with her husband. And she did not want to go to this gala. She was dead tired, surgeries all day, did not want to go, but had to go to the gala. So she said afterwards, she says, I had to take the babysitter home because my husband's rule is not to be alone with a female babysitter. And she goes, I'm driving back home. All of a sudden, I heard my grandmother scream, wake up. And she goes, I came to, and I was heading into a brick wall. And she was able to put the brake on just in time.
Wow.
So she had fallen asleep at the wheel. So she wasn't even conscious. And,
Yeah.
and her grandmother, and I've heard this again and again. And the other one happened to me. Okay. But this one I asked. Okay. She didn't ask for that one, but I asked for this. So about 5 months ago, I lost one of my oldest, dearest friends, somebody that I thought I was going to, die together at a very old age, and she's a very global person, East Indian that was raised in South Africa. Her brothers lived in Australia, so she would visit Australia, undergraduate at University of Edinburgh, Scotland, PhD here in Philadelphia, UPenn. And so just a dear, dear friend. And 2 days before she had her heart attack, we had this wonderful FaceTime visit where she told me she loved me and I was her sister. And that was just a gift,
Yeah.
And so about a month or so ago, I'm walking down the street thinking of her.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, like I was communicating with her, I said, Pushpa, I said, if there's ever anyone who's going to give me a sign, it's you. And I said, maybe it's too soon. I said, but when you're ready, I want a sign. I swear to you, Mitzi, the very next day, I got a Facebook friend request from her.
I believe it. I believe it. Nobody else in this world may believe you, but Sophia, I believe you because you don't know the things that I know.
Oh, well, do you have a story like that?
Oh, I have millions of stories. And sadly, there's no time for that.
Oh,
And we're gonna have to make an excuse for you to come back, and we're gonna have to have like a paranormal stories or something just so that we can share these moments because man, the stories that I have is yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When you have them, it's like you cannot deny that the spirit world is real. You know what I mean? You cannot deny that there's different dimensions. You cannot deny that there's other things here on earth besides us. You know what I'm saying? And that is something that nothing and no one can take away from me because of what I've lived through and what I've experienced. So I know exactly what you mean, that no one can take that away from you as well. So I appreciate you, being your honest and sharing this rawness with me. But time is catching up to us. Ah, time, you. How can you leave us off with some lasting words to keep us thinking?
Well, I mean, people could read the books. I feel that just having some self reflection on things that happened in your life and how did that come about, and it's there. It's um, when I recorded the audiobook and I'm reading these things, these signs. 7 chapters are my experiences and 3 are close friends, and I still can't believe it. So these things are all around us, and just keep your
Mhm.
mind open. Just because I'll tell you, I have a husband, I have a daughter, and I wrote 2 books, and I couldn't be happier. So happiness and true purpose is there for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. I believe it 110%. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your perspective with me. And ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to know more about Sophia, because how could you not with this conversation? How can you not be intrigued to know about her books, especially that second one? Am I right? So please go check her out and so that you can continue on thinking. But before we really wrap up the show, I do want to share the one story so that I can leave you off thinking. So one time I lived in Florida and I was outside with a group of my friends. We were just chilling outside. It was late at night. And then I looked to my left and far in the distance by a tree, I seen like a spirit walking all in white. And I was just like, okay. And then I dismissed it. And then I went to sleep that night. And that night I had a dream that I was a detective and I was looking for a group of kids that were kidnapped and we needed to find these group of kids. But I couldn't find them. I couldn't find them, So then I woke up to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom and right when I was about to turn off the lights, I seen a kid all in white, blondish hair, and he was just standing right there with the finger pointing and I turned off the light because I was like, what? And then I turned it on. And then I look at the he was gone, obviously. And I look at my mirror and it was a circle with the star. You know what I mean? Yes. So then I go back to sleep. I dismiss it. I go back to sleep and then I go right back into that dream. Right back into that dream and somebody in my dream was like, "Mitzi, we found the kids. They're in this warehouse. Let's go." And I was like, "Okay, great. Let's go." So we go and what do I see? I see that kid with a whole bunch of other kids at the points of that star around a circle with candles as a sacrifice. Oh my God, did my heart break for them? I cried and then I woke up. And then that was the end of that. But so we are going to leave you guys off thinking with that. Until next time, y'all. Bye.